every producer we worked. Valdemar Zorita, which produced the first four albums, Shetil Karma
Yes.
Code. He taught us a lot because obviously we were completely unexperienced when we went in the studio the first time. We never been in the studio. We never played with a click. We never. So obviously he told us a lot about the very beginning, how you stay in the studio, what's important to do in the studio, how much you have to be ready to go and record, especially because back then we recorded analog. And so there wasn't so much technology like there is today to help you make things a little easier. And so we learned a lot from him working the old way, the classic way of recording albums. And then we changed to Don Gilmore and Shallow Life and Dark Adrenaline. And Don was a much different producer than obviously we also started to use more technology in the studio. And Don was very different than Valdemar because he produced a lot of more mainstream bands like Linkin Park and many big bands, and so it gave us a complete different experience. I think, especially to me and Christina, in terms of how you write the lyrics. Because Valdemar was German, so he was speaking a very good English, but obviously he's not a mother tongue songwriter lyricist.
Mm-hmm.
And while Don was a very good mother tongue lyricist, and so it helped us a lot developing our English in when we write for the songs. And then Jay, I think it was also more of a music producer, not so much of a songwriter in terms of lyrics and stuff like that. So maybe you work more with Marco on certain things, but I think Don and Valdemar are the two where we learn most of our songwriting.
Oh, they
Or
did a lot for
becoming,
us.
yeah, they did a lot for us and teaching us how to work on different aspects of the music.
Just so you guys know, we have the stream back again. I've got it.
Okay.
I
Hello,
mean, it's
everyone.
kind of a new one,
We're
but
back.
hello. Don't know what happened, but it seems to be working now. So, yeah, that's a really good insight into the whole concept of working with producers, because there's a point at which, if all you've ever been is a musician and a songwriter, and you haven't gone into the studio and done all of those things, like working, even just recording to a click, if you've never done it before, you need somebody to coach you a little bit and all of that stuff. But over the course of 20 years, you guys have made all of these albums with these producers that you've been talking about. And at a certain point, especially if you're doing the vast majority of the songwriting yourselves, even with just a little bit of input here and there, it kind of becomes almost more work to have a producer. You just don't need them. So it's cool seeing bands go through that and hitting a point where they're like, no, we know what we are now. We know what this needs to be. We don't need an extra person calling the shots. So that's the way it's been. You were saying for the last three albums, including
three with Comalize Access.
Three with Comalize Access. Okay, awesome. So let's talk about what happens once you've hit this point. So you're saying you've got the tracks. When you hit the chicken, once the chicken has been sacrificed.
Yes.
Once you've got, you've written the track, the singers have written their parts. Do you guys get together and jam it, or do you?
No, we do that after.
After it's completely
after. What happened actually? Okay, let's make music first. Then I give it to Andre Christina, and then they find vocal lines. Then they come back to me here. All together, we work on the vocal lines. We change. Maybe I just take one vocal part, they sing, and then I rebuild the songs completely.
Mm-hmm.
I always change stuff. I never stop in one thing. As far as I don't love it, most of the time it happens that maybe they make a song, they find the vocal line. I feel that the vocal line is way better than what I expect, or maybe I had some ideas just listening to the vocal lines, so I change all the music. So when all this process is done, we give it to the other guy to listen, and then we go to the practice room and we practice together. We see if it works, if it's rolling good, because when you do live stuff, it's rolling different than the computer. That's a classic. Then you can find the BPM properly and blah blah blah. But first is back and forward from between me and Andrea Cristina.
Okay.
Okay.
So does it change much at all after that, like between that sort of ever finalization, like you're saying, and then actually going to the studio to record it? Is there anything that maybe, if you have an example of something that you thought you had it, and then you guys were like in the studio or whatever, and you're like, that's not gonna work?
I have an example. The example is Layers of Time in Black Anima. That song sounds very good to me, and we change is nothing probably for some people, but for me is important. We change the BPM of that song, and we made that song way more faster in on studio, because it sounds better, And for example, to me, it was very hard to play with the bass, the intro of that part, and now it's a pain in the ass play that part live to me. That's
Yeah.
how I simplified that part live, because now I guess doing this with the bass, it's very hard to me. And because basically we get it was like now is like 14 BPM faster than the original version, and 14 BPM it's a lot, and this is but actually the song is sound way better, so why not, let's do it.
I
But
think
that's
people
something that we can, or maybe sometimes we can change the structure of the song even at the last moment, or maybe Diego he comes out with a better guitar solo, and or a note. He does a mistake recording the solo. Say, wow, this note sounds great. Let's do it. We always open to do that. If something better comes out, always yes. Happens even with vocal lines. In studio they're recording, they does something here. Oh shit! Oh, I love it. Just keep this one. Let's go. No, but that's part of the job. It's always like that.
People underestimate the importance of the BPM of a track by a lot, I think. I don't think people really understand how very important it is to the feeling of it.
They are, man. It's a mess. That's why I love in Logic there is one function is called it Varispeed. Then actually now you can just click that button, put a different BPM, and you can feel the different, even if it sounds weird, it doesn't, because it doesn't process it very well. It's just a kind of fast process just to see how it sounds like faster or slower, but actually that helps a lot already, but still it's not the same as play live that song. For example, as far as we change it in studio where we were recording the drums of that song, Layers of Time, for me it was a surprise when I first record the bass on that to say, okay, fuck, now it's too fast, but whatever, it sounds awesome, easy, but whatever,
You didn't have enough time to really get the fingers in shape for it.
I don't play with fingers anymore.
You didn't have enough time to get the pick.
I broke down my hands with Andrea. We had a crash in the car. I broke both my hands.
Holy crap.
Yes,
a long time ago.
Can we call it beach? We have to call it girl. I mean, basically, she was a bitch, not because of work, because she was a bitch. She didn't stop, and she just come into Andrea's car, crashed here.
Holy shit!
And I broke the shoulder. I broke both my hands.
Oh my god!
So, now, dude, the triplet is not easy.
No.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also that you think you have a lot of time, but then when you write, and then times goes faster, and you think, oh, we still have time for the studio, we still have time, and then the studio comes and you don't have time anymore. So sometimes you have to do some stuff in the studio because you didn't have time. Because we always say, if you don't have a deadline, then you always try to kind of postpone it, because you say, oh, I can do better, we can do one extra song, and then the studio time comes, and it's always like that, and then you have to rush because the studio is coming. So sometimes it's a good pressure, because sometimes because you have to do it to make it in time, you find the right inspiration for some reason, but sometimes it's hard. And even if we are a band that kind of can decide when we want to go in the studio, but still, it's never enough time. You always think you have time, and then it's never enough.
Right. That's another thing. The pressure make you do better stuff. I just realized that in studio.
I always say that you'll do something in the amount of time that you have to do it. So like you have, you have, let's say 6 months to prepare the thing, and then you're going into the booth to record vocals, and you realize you need an extra line, like something just isn't working, and you've only got 5 minutes to do it. Even though you had 6 months to do it before, now you got 5 minutes. You're gonna do it in 5 minutes. You're gonna get it together. But it's very difficult to like artificially put that kind of a time restriction on yourself if it doesn't exist for any other reason other than whatever. But
and another thing is that very often when you record a demo and you kind of jam on the song, sometimes you have a performance that is just perfect, because that day you have a perfect breath, relaxed, happy, and we go at Marcos, we meet and we sing something, we improvise something, and it comes out perfect. And then you try to reproduce that in the studio, and it never comes the same, because you don't feel the same as you were feeling that one day where you recorded, So you can go close to that, obviously, but it's never. Sometimes the take you've done in the demo, you'll never be able to do again, in the studio, because it's just the way that one day you were feeling, was just perfect, and the voice was perfect. You were now in the studio, you have to do it. You have time, but if you don't do it one day, okay, I'll try another day. But then you can't keep postponing. You have to do it sooner or later. And sometimes you really never able to reproduce that special take you had in the demos.
That's why we will do that now home from the next album.
Yeah,
we're thinking about recording the vocals at home,
as we did with the guitar solos. Different way. We try in studio with Diego 2 days, nothing. In 1 day, in half day on my home, we did all the solos. See, when you feel relaxed, be relaxed and be in the nice place where you feel good is more important than anything else, because the body, the instrument, in that case with Diego, the body and the guitar. So with Andrea, Cristina, the body and their vocal and the voice, need to be relaxed, good, brain, everything, So, and then you get to do stuff better. That's the way. That's the way.
Yeah, sometimes the performance is more important than how accurate you've been. Maybe in the studio you can be more precise because you listen better, you hear better, and then obviously there's somebody that check every word, everything. But then sometimes it's very good, but it's not what it was needed for the song. Sometimes the rough part that comes out with a natural mistake is better than the super perfect part that you can do in the studio.
The emotion you transmit when you sing or you play, that's more important, way more important to me.
So
music.
In that sort of vein, the feeling of the music, like you're talking about, the sort of, I kind of hate the word vibe, but it works pretty well in this case. So the sort of vibe, your band has a very particular one. Like all of the songs have this feeling. There's a hypnotic quality. There's this very dark feeling. You've been labeled as goth, which fits pretty well, but it's also got a very particular flavor. When you're creating the music, how much are you considering the feeling that you're going to be giving the audience, that you're going to be invoking in them? Is there something? Do you think about that? Are you trying to really give them a very particular experience, or what?
So absolutely, yes, 100%. That's the main thing to me. The vibe. I know you hate it, but yeah, but this is what you want to transmit. Transmit.
I think it's
Whatever.
because people in LA use it in a really douchey way, but
Okay,
but
so
it's
probably
it's
okay.
still a good word.
Makes
It's not the
sense,
vibe's fault.
No, but it makes sense, Yeah, but that actually that's the focus for me. For me, musically is very, very important. I want the people feel that. I want the people feel exactly what they feel when I play that song and the music. And actually it kind of worked because watching the people write to me on Instagram and apparently it works. So great success. So
Yeah, and also
they
sometimes
get it. It means that they are right. They get, yeah, they get. Sorry,
they
my
get what we
English.
want to say. Yeah,
Exactly.
but sometimes it's also for us more natural to express something that has that little darker vibe, compared to something more positive or happy, let's say, music wise. We don't come up usually with some very uh, major kind of melodies. It's more we're more like to give that more darker vibe to the music because it's probably the way growing up, the way we've been in love with the music is to that darker side of music. Although we consider, you can consider dark or goth even a band like Korn, for example, which is not
Yes.
maybe in the cliche of the gothic music, but I think they have some melodies, some arrangements, some vibe that can be also gothic. Even if they're not strictly coming. When you say gothic, you think about Bauhaus or Sister of Mercy or The
Yeah.
Cure, even. But sometimes it's more broad. I think it's more wide the spectrum of what can be considered goth. It's not strictly always have to be sad, but it has to
Exactly.
be always. You have to feel it here. It has to be intense, I think.
What are some things that have sort of inspired you to want to create this feeling and this kind of particular kind of a vibe in your music? Is there anything that wasn't just hearing music like that really made you want to make it sound like that?
Non ho capito cosa ho detto.
Come mai abbiamo questa vibe, diciamo, da dove ci viene questa cosa di fare la musica così?
Sorry, I just asked him. I don't understand what he said. Okay, so pardon. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. We don't know exactly.
I mean,
But
actually, we were skaters. Me and him. We were skaters. We started skateboarding when we were 13. I was 13. He was 15. We were listening punk and hard rock music and hardcore music. Not just I mean every type of music, but mainly it was hardcore. So it was not very emotional. It was more about mosh pit. But at the same time, I don't know, from my parents, my father actually was listening a lot of Pink Floyd. He was listening a lot of let's say dark emotional music, in a way. And I don't know where it comes from. Then by
and I think
ourselves,
maybe
I,
later we also got a lot into bands like Typo Negative and Paradise Lost,
Paradise Lost.
Tiamat, and those
Yes.
maybe drive us a little bit to growing up.
Mm.
They drive us more in that kind of atmosphere, I think.
Direction, yes.
Yeah.
Però I don't know. Actually, but he's dark, he's goth, but positive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never had any fans comes to me and say, "Oh, I try to kill myself listening your music." No, they always be the opposite. They always say, "You save me with your music," and that's great. That's what I like, and that's to me what is dark and goth. It's not just sad and bad. To me, dark is positive. I mean, you see the light in the dark. I mean, it's kind of cliche, but it's the truth. See, if
Yeah,
you
I
see it
think
in
I
that
think
way.
we're using with our music, we're using this negative part of life that everybody experiences who relate for different
Yes.
reasons, and we use it in the music, and then it comes out as there's a hope in the end of the tunnel, let's say, in the end of the light. So we use it as in the end, all these negative feelings generate something positive for us, you know. So it's a way to push it out of ourselves more than holding it inside, you know.
Absolutely. That sort of contrast too of the, you know, of light and dark things. I mean, I can see you guys in your like into your offices or wherever you're sitting. There, you know, it's not like you've got the walls painted black and, you know, like
Excelling. You see
you know,
me
I can
how
see
gothic I am with the
like
Lego.
yeah,
The
exactly.
Lego Star Wars and painting and miniatures.
Yeah, it's not like
Seriously?
you're not making sad music because you're sad or dark
Yeah, that's a
whatever
lot of
like
people asked me as well. That why you're so happy you make that music. So what? What's the problem? I need to be sad to write that music? No,
you
I
contain
need to be.
multitudes.
I need to be comfortable and in the right place and in the right mood to write music. But that doesn't mean that I'm always sad or I need to be angry, whatever, to write music. No, absolutely not. Emotion I
Yeah,
can speak.
we
It's a different thing, you know.
yeah we put it in the music, but it doesn't mean we need to be angry 24 hours a day, you know. Obviously
Excel.
there's a moment where you can be angry, but we try to divert everything inside the music and just
Cos'è,
push
amore?
it out, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah. So you said that basically not a lot has changed in the way that you go about writing. But are there any things that you've done previously, maybe as early as Comalize or the first ones, that you absolutely were like, we're never doing that again? Something that you tried and maybe didn't work, took a risk or whatever, or just a way of working that just didn't work.
Mm,
Well, maybe when, but in the very beginning, we weren't too many people were songwriting. Everybody was trying to put a little bit of their own idea, and that in the end it doesn't work. You know, it's too many. When too many people try to push their ideas into the song, you'll never find the right structure for the song. You know, it makes more sense if you have more than one songwriter, and then one guy can write one song and the other guy can write another song. But don't combine try to sneak two complete different ideas in the same song, you know, two visions of the
Mm-hmm.
song, how the song should go. Otherwise you're never gonna find a solution, you know. That's something that we do in the beginning because we didn't have experience, obviously. Then
right.
the more you work, then you understand that it's better if somebody is better at doing something, let them do it, you know, instead of trying to force your idea into it, you know. It's much better to have one person that can do it, do most of the job, and then you can help him on some stuff, but not try to be 50-50 at any cost, you know. It's the same with the vocal lines or the lyrics, you know. If somebody has the main drive for the lyrics or for the vocal lines, let them do it, and then you can help shaping it up and making it better and finalizing it. But don't force yourself on other. If you see somebody's doing well on his own, don't try to be there at any cost, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's better to let some people that is better at doing something just do it, and then find your place to help and to make it better in the end, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
In that same sort of vein, is there anything that you haven't gotten to do yet that you would like to be able to do for whatever reason, like that you haven't been able to do? Maybe it's cost prohibitive, maybe it's just haven't had access or time to do the thing, something you'd like to do on a future
out
album.
out of music or in the music?
No, in the music, with the
I
music.
mean, yeah, I would like to make a soundtrack for an album, for a movie, or yes, that's
Yeah, I mean, from your
not easy,
description of
obviously.
how you're going about getting these ideas using
Yes,
so much visual, I think
right.
that'd be great.
Movies or video games, you know, now all the video games they have the soundtracks like movies or even better. So, but yeah, I mean, there's that I always like to do that. I would like to do that. Yes, definitely. In the music, I mean, in the music, that's it. I'm not really other stuff for me.
Yeah, nothing with the writing for the band. You feel
Yes, I
like you're
mean,
doing it how
I
you.
like to do that. That's my favorite part. I mean, even going on stage and play on stage is fun, but it's not really what I like about my job. My job, I really like to write music. That's to give to. I really like to have people feedback from the people says, listening to your music make my life better or something like that. That's my best.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that in
But
English.
satisfaction.
Satisfaction, right?
I always felt
Yeah.
like
Uh,
performing is awesome. Like you said, it's not a creative endeavor, really. It's not like writing.
No,
So
not at all.
No,
very
no,
different in that
it's
sense.
different. I mean, sometimes you can be more creative on some shows with the productions. Like you can try to do, like when we do a special show, we try to put also visual inputs or people that do something different. Like we did the fire breathers or people that was doing acrobatic stuff and so you can do something like that and make the show unique, and different than anybody else. But it's usually always a budget limit, to that, because obviously when you can do it maybe in one single show, but to do it on a full tour, it's expensive and you have to carry people around. So you need another tour bus or another, more structure that are cost a lot for being taken around unless you have a big production. So definitely the most creative is when you songwrite, is the most creative part. But we try also to do some stuff for the live shows, like the stage clothes, like the choreography, as much as possible,
Visual.
the visual as much as possible. But sometimes there's limits due to the budgets to that, obviously.
Yes. Um, I'd I'd be curious to know a bit about the lyrics that you're writing and the sort of topics that you tend to cover, and more than anything else, how sort of on the nose you're trying to be with the messages that you're putting into your lyrics. Like, are you generally writing things more nebulously and sort of vague, or are you really trying to say something really specific, and whether or not you feel like people get it?
The way we approach it is more a real life kind of lyrics. Let's say normally we take its most inspiration when something happened in our life for real. Like we don't like to make up a story from scratch or talk about a topic that we don't really know well. Is like if I want to talk about the young kids that they cut themselves, but I'm not a young kid. I never cut myself. So I would never go touch something I don't know at all. So sometimes we start from a real life experience, and then we can make it a bit more bigger when we write and make it even become something more than our little personal experience, something that everybody, because in the end everybody always comes up with different interpretation of the lyrics than to compare to what you originally wanted to say. So it's good, I think, to leave it a little bit open, not meaningless. Obviously it has to be a meaning, it has to be a starting point, that like a phrase that comes from your experience, that gives you that flow, because it's very hard to write, for us at least, to write lyrics if we start from nothing, like sit in front of the computer. I'm gonna write lyrics now. Okay, I get a nice title, so I try to make up a story from the title. It's very hard for us. Most of the time we need to have lived what we're talking about, at least some of it, and then it can become something bigger, something a little different. But it has to start from something
From a
that we
real
have
point.
experienced. Otherwise, you always get stuck with the topic and try to make it sound nice, trying to find the rhyme, but it's not real. And nothing gives you inspiration like a real experience. When you have experienced something by yourself, it's the best inspiration, and you have a lot of things to say. When you try to write something out of nowhere, it doesn't work for us. We're not good at inventing stories or stuff like that.
Do you have any particular way that you go about structuring your lyrics from like for example, like verses and choruses as you're going? Is there anything that you've done for more than one song that you would say is a constant?
No, sometimes we try to avoid to repeat things. Sometimes you find you wrote exactly the same thing twice,
Yeah.
and that's say, no, I already wrote this this phrase for the, even if it was in a slightly different context, but it was still the same phrase. So if we realize we're doing the same, we try to change it. Obviously, we don't want to repeat this, and also the topic. We try to don't repeat exactly the same topic if it's possible, but sometimes it's also good to find the words. When you improvise the vocal line, you create some phrases that sometimes have more or less sense. But sometimes you find out they give you a meaning, and then you realize the meaning after you've been working those words, and you put them together, and then you find the meaning of what you want to express. So sometimes it's also good to leave the good phrases you have. You just improvise. You have 3 4 good phrases, you keep them, and then you try to connect them with sense, obviously, and try to give them a whole meaning. But sometimes the words are already there, so it's a shame when you have some perfect words that sounds perfect in the melody, and then you have to change them because of the meaning. So sometimes I think you have to leave those words there, because those are somewhere in the air. You grab them and you put them there. So they were already meant to be on the song. So sometimes it's better. It's a hard work to make them collide with the other words and make sense. It's a lot of work sometimes, but I think it pays off. When you have the perfect words that sounds great, you don't have to change them. You better work around them and connect them somehow to the meaning, but don't change them. Because they were sounding so good, so perfectly, nothing else would sound the same way. And I was actually I saw an interview with Rick Rubin the other day, and he was saying the same. He was saying how Anthony from the Chili Peppers works on writing lyrics, and he say I recognize totally he does exactly the same things we do when we write lyrics. Obviously from the different topics and different styles, but the way he works is very similar to the way we work. He was talking about 3 different songwriters he worked with. There was like Jay-Z, which is like a computer that has memorized all the words. He doesn't write down anything. And then he works one way. And then Eminem that keeps writing and keep every day to don't lose the ability to write. So even if he doesn't need it for a song, he will never use it for a song, but he writes every day. And then there was the Chili Peppers, Anthony, and he works really close to what we do. Like he finds some words just by improvising, or he has something written already, and then use it in the singing on the demos without too much sense right away, but then finalizing it and finding the perfect meaning at the end. So there's different ways for everybody to work these things, but sometimes you find it's great to see that somebody else just use the same. It's a lot of work for sure, but it's one of the best way, I think, to work.
So you kind of improvise gibberish almost, or just kind of once you've got the track from Maki.
Yeah, or sometimes I have a paper, like a note paper with a lot of phrases that I like, that I collect from books or from something I read on the internet, some articles from some title, sometimes even from Facebook. I read the status of somebody and I like the phrase he used on the status, so I keep it and I take it out of context and I keep it for myself, and then I put it in the words when I demo the vocal lines. And then you have already something that has some kind of sense, and then you put it in the direction of the topic that we already discussed together with Marco and Christina before. Or sometimes me and Christina, we come up with exactly the same or very close phrase for a song. And even if we didn't talk to each other, we just work separately. And then we have we used to work so much together that sometimes we come up with exactly the same phrase or a very similar phrase.
At least that lets you know you're on the right path for sure. Can you maybe
after so many years, man.
Yeah, you guys got a little psychic connection.
Yes.
Maybe could you give us an example of a song, something recent maybe, and how it how a little bit of insight into what that process actually looks like when you were writing the vocal lines and the lyrics?
Okay, I have to think about it.
Maybe something that was inspired by something real particular that leaps out at you.
For example, the album, the not the last one, the one before, Delirium. We some of us in the band were going through some family members having mental illness problem due to their old age, and so we've been very close to some personal issues with people forgetting who they are, going through deteriorate their mind and stuff like that. So that obviously influenced the way, because we never experienced something like, we never saw how it is to lose contact with reality, how it works, how much time it takes, and how much you don't recognize your dear people anymore and stuff like that. So from that we got a lot of inspiration, and we decided to use it for the album, talking about all different kind of mental illnesses, that starting from the ones we have experienced directly through our family members to the more vast different kind of mental illnesses that sometimes our fans would wrote us about, sometimes other people, so always trying to, and we collect all these different elements and ideas, and every song in the album more or less talked about a different mental illness, more or less. Obviously it was written in a way that you can also use it in your personal relationship with someone else. It wasn't so specific scientifically talking about, that couldn't be mistaken. It was more generic because we tried to open it and give it to the people in a way that they can use it for their personal life every day. But that record connects with a lot of people, because we found out there's way more people than we expect that experience these mental illnesses, the stigma of it. And then we went to visit some real life mental illnesses hospitals from the past, some abandoned place, to get some. We took some old pictures of this place, some books that were telling the stories of these places, and just to get more into the old concept. But we decided to talk about this because in real life we went through this experience, and we never talked about it in our record. So we decided to start from there and expand it to the whole album. And then we did also the way we were dressed in the photos were with straight jackets, and the photos, they looked like, we looked at the real photos from these crazy people, the posture they had, the way they were laying on the bed, and we tried to reproduce that on our own pictures and our own backdrop. All the choreography on stage was starting from there. So we try to take something personal. Obviously you play with it a little bit, because you can't experience all of the mental illnesses, but you can get information, you can talk to people that has went through this, and then you have a more wide you have to deep into it. You have to dig and find out.
That's really cool. You went all the way, you did some research, but it didn't sound like a research paper or something like, we
didn't went through Wikipedia and Google mental illness. We first experienced that, so we thought it was a strong topic, because we knew for real in firsthand how it was deep and complicated. And then we did some research about it. Once we decided that was the strongest thing that happened in our life was that, in that moment.
Wow. Talk about vibe. You guys really worked the vibe in a very particular way.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Well, I think that's man. That's one of those things that makes me go like, oh damn, that's a really good way to go about it. That sort of thing is why I do this podcast. Like, I mean, all of these answers are gold to me. Like, I love hearing all of this stuff, but that kind of very particular method of in sort of getting into the mindset and the feeling of what you're going for by doing that kind of, I mean, research makes it seem like it's this cold like thing, but you were just trying to get in the mood to feel it, getting the the backdrop for the writing to put yourself in the right mindset. And that's something that I haven't really tried, and now I really want to. So I love hearing that. Remember you said, "Oh, there's nothing really special about how we do it." That's very special. I mean, I've heard of people doing that, but the way that you describe it, that's pretty.
In that case, it happens. So we were into that, not because we want, but then we try it and we realize that actually, yeah. I mean, it's not a good thing. It's not a happy thing actually.
Yeah.
But it helps to write stuff, definitely.
Yeah, very often the strongest thing that happens to you, even if they're not happy, they are the ones that gives you something to talk about, because it makes you reflect. When you're happy and you go out with your friends drinking beer, you have a great night and you don't even remember what you did. So it's not something that you got stories to tell for sure, but you're not gonna use it for a record maybe, because there's nothing so deep to talk about. So only the really strong things that happen in your life are the ones, at least in our case, that motivates you to talk about it, that to explore why. And I can give you another example if you want, like the Black Anima, the last album before Comalize. We went through some people dying, some dear people that left us, obviously because we're getting older and we experience more of this compared to when you're younger. Normally you don't have to experience as much, and so that gave us this connection with these people that is not with us anymore. People our age, people older than us, and so we decided that connection between us and this other departed person, it was something strong to talk about, and from there we generated the Black Anima, which is black soul, which we imagine this kind of out of body figure that come out when you pass, and then they stay around you even if you don't see them. And then I took some books about the history of angels in history. So because angels are not just from Christianity, but there are figures just like angels that have been always in history. Even the Egyptian had these figures of out of body figures. So I analyzed all these books. There was scientifically talking about the history of angels and what kind of these energies, these figures. Some people consider it as a religious point of view, of a scientific point of view. So there's many ways to interpret this, and that was very interesting. So I, from there, we started the concept from Black Anima that then turned into something bigger and more complicated. But that was the beginning of it. So there's when something strong and makes you think happens, it's where there's gold for the songwriter, I think. To generate something new.
Yeah, gathering material for the ideas, and just the raw, the sort of raw data to generate more and more concepts about the same idea. That's cool. Yeah, damn. I'm just sitting here like, yeah. Trying not to talk too much. So I guess then the question just becomes, are you working on a similar kind of concept for what's coming up next? I know you maybe don't want to spoil too much, but are you doing any of that same kind of research now for what's coming up next? Or, I mean, I know you literally just released an album like a week ago, and you might not be in writing mode, but anything that's you could talk about?
I mean, before we worked on Comalize, Marco already had some music ideas, but as he said before, we were a bit stuck with the creativity because of the pandemic. We didn't felt any inspiration to go and do a complete new album. So we kind of put on hold everything that we had. We had some material, and we're going to take it and listen to it. And we also started talking about some topics that could have been potentially used as a concept or sort of a concept. But we haven't reached that point yet where we've seen something that was solid enough, to do that, because we miss especially the touring, the living on the road, and that's a big inspiration for us, because when you are on the road, a lot of things happen. You meet a lot of people, you travel a lot, and that was missing for 2 years. So we kind of felt stuck. And so we're gonna do this. I think next year we're gonna start approach, take all this material and read it and say, okay, this is good, this is not good enough. I think.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm looking very much forward to what that's going to be, and maybe I'll get to hear a little bit at another point about how you wind up going about it. So this is me talking to you in the future of of like, hey, Lacuna Coil in 2 years. What did you wind up doing? Let's see. I'm excited to hear what the concept was, because as of this moment, you don't know. Well, I think that's a pretty good point to wrap it up, because that's now we've gotten to the present day. We have reached now. So what's coming up for you guys in the immediate future? You have some tours planned. You got some any events or cool stuff that you want the people to know about?
I mean,
yeah, I mean, we're going, actually, Nick, this upcoming weekend, we're going to a thing here in Italy called Lucca Comics, which is a huge comic convention that takes place in the city of Lucca in Tuscany, near Florence. And it's like a beautiful setting, a unique setting. It's like a medieval town, and most of the comics is inside the medieval walls. So all the surroundings are very cool and unique. It's a super huge thing, but it's very unique setting compared to the normal comic convention. So me, Marco, and Christina, we're gonna be there, and maybe we'll find some more inspiration for next work as well. And we're gonna do some promo. We're gonna do some. Marco is painting some miniatures. Christina is doing the Twitch. I mean, we're doing a lot of cool nerdy stuff for the weekend. And then we get the tours, as you say. We're gonna go to Dubai for the Dubai Metal Festival. Then from there we go to Australia for the Good Things Festival, which is a traveling festival around Australia with Bring Me the Horizon, Deftones, NoFX, Ginger, Sabaton, like a lot of bands. Then we got Manila, I think, in the Philippines, Jakarta, Singapore, and Tokyo is the last show. And then that's going to be November, December. So we're going to finish the year like that for the tours. And then we're going to start the new year songwriting, I think.
That's all. I mean, you guys are going all over the place. Are you actually going to drive to any of these shows, or is it all flying in?
It's all
flying.
Damn.
It's going to be a lot of airplane.
Oh, boy. That's sounds like a pretty exciting couple of shows, if nothing else. So, well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know it is a bit late where you're at now. So thank you so much for all of this. And, of course, everyone out there, go check out Comalize XX. It is now out on all the places that you can listen to music. If you are a fan of the original, you should definitely spend some time with this for sure, because it's the same but different, and it's I'm excited to hear what people who are hardcore fans think about it, because it was unexpected and in a cool way. So this was great. I love doing these. I am so glad that we got to talk about this, and that you were willing to hang out with all of us here on the stream as well. So you guys have a great evening. Go and get some sleep. Thanks for staying up.
You're welcome, man.
And
thank you.
Hopefully you guys will come to the States also pretty soon, and I'll get to see you play again.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. So thank you very much for everything, and see you again.
All right, dudes. Have a great night. Catch y'all later.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao. All right. Well, that was great. I always feel a little weird ending these, because I'm always like, I could go forever and ever, but I don't want to keep you know, especially if they're in Europe, like it's like 10 something now, I think. So thank you all for hanging out, and so sorry that the stream went down. That was a bummer. I don't know what happened, honestly. I'm amazed that I was able to get it back up and running while keeping the interview going. I was like, all right, so the stream went down, guys. Let's just keep going and pretend that it didn't, and I'm going to try and get it back up and running. I honestly don't know why it did that. It's anyway, something beyond my control, unfortunately. I think it was my internet service provider, but we kept it rolling, and this was super fun. This will, if you missed the first half, the first bit, this, as with all episodes of the podcast, will be available as an audio podcast at howsongsaremade.podcast.com. The link for that is also in the description, and that will be up there very soon, and you can listen to it in its entirety without all of the, problems. Without all of the dropouts. So, as always, thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this and most of the episodes of the How Songs Are Made podcast. You can get 7% off your first year of DistroKid. If you make music and you're putting it out, you got to be using DistroKid. It's the best way to get your music onto the internet, and you can get 7% off your first year at the link in the description. And if you want to see how the hyperfollow works, I dropped the link for the new In Virtue track Scream in there as a hyperfollow, and you can see what it looks like to the world. So thank you all for watching. I do this every week, although actually I think next week is Halloween, so there will not be a guest a week from today, as far as I know. But as always, hit that like, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see y'all real soon. Bye.